Hello friends and enemies, welcome to or back to Happy For Now. It's me Isabel here with your September Romancelandia. The biggest caveat right now is you're watching this due to circumstances. I had to film this on Wednesday, September 25th. So whatever has happened in the last 4 days is not here. Because I know that I have cursed us already, okay? I already know I've cursed us by having to pre-film this early, but there was no world that I could get this done in time if I didn't film it today. So I'm sure I missed something and I cannot wait to hear in the comments what I missed, but I'm just giving you that caveat now. Also, I had to cut stuff. I thought I had a brief moment where I was like, September's not been that wild. And then I started going through my list in my Discord with my members and I was like, never mind. I take it all back. Never mind. So yeah, we're gonna dive right in and talk about everything that happened this month. And first up, we have to talk about a TikToker that we've talked about before. Because of course we have. Because of course someone is just continuously, obviously a bad actor and yet somehow has like hundreds of thousands of followers. Because I guess that's what gets you there sometimes, is having no feelings about morality, I guess, and following through on things. You may or may not have been here for that Romancelandia. I will link it down below, but Callie is reading on TikTok, is a creator who previously accepted books as gifts from people off her wish list that she then held up in a video and talked about how she was never going to read these books. And people recognized books they sent her. That's shady, y'all. That is very shady. I didn't like it. And I was already like, I don't like this person. I have bad feelings. And those bad feelings were revalidated last month because she has accepted payment from authors to do promotional content or to do paid reviews for books, which we will talk about in a moment, and not delivered on any of that content and ghosted the authors. This is not the first time she's done that. When we found out about the gifted books, we also found out about her on another account getting crystals and then just vanishing, not delivering in any capacity to the person who gave her the crystals in exchange for a service. Now, I know that this conversation has led to a big conversation about paid reviews that has a lot of people very worked up. And here's what I want to tell you. As a creator, as somebody who puts a lot of effort into my content, into what I do on various platforms, and firmly believes people who make content like this and are able to get paid should get paid. That does not mean you should get paid and then not deliver the product. And that paid reviews are inherently bad. You have to find creators you vibe with, right? You have to find creators you trust their opinions. You know, you have a feeling on their morality and their standings with things as far as like how and what they would do to handle a paid review. I personally do have commissions open where people can pay me to read their favorite book sooner. They can pay me, if they're an author, to read their book and talk about it. And I will include it in a weekly vlog. And that is like, okay, like there's nothing wrong with that. You have to disclose it. That's the first rule here. You do have to disclose these things. You also have to deliver on the promised item. That's it. Like, there's nothing wrong with it. There are book review places that require payment. You don't get a Kirkus starred reviews are paid. Not paid reviews, but like you have to pay to get your book in there. I'm 99% sure. Paid platforms for reviews exist, and it should exist, and it is allowed to exist. And I think it makes sense for authors to be able to commission bookish content creators to create content for them because they're going to take the work off the author's plate. And if they already love a book, or if the author thinks they're going to love a book and they do, fair game. I personally am someone who, like, if I didn't like a book and someone commissioned me, I would refund their money and be like, I'm so sorry. This is not working for me. But again, you have to find people that you vibe with and whose opinions you trust so that when things like that do happen and they do have paid opportunities, you know how to judge them and judge where they stand. So I just think, parent, we can't trust Callie. Big red flags on her. But I also think you have to remember, again, the second part of that conversation about paid reviews is just like, that's a reality of any bookish space on the internet and any space in general on the internet. Paid reviews are a thing. Again, disclosure. Disclosure is key. Disclosure has been a big issue on TikTok for people. I will just tell you right here, if you're watching my channel, that is something I will never not do, is disclose any relationship or conversations I have with an author around their work if I feel it is relevant, which basically like, hey, I talked to so-and-so and they're an author, that's what I'm going to tell you. But I also will be like, I'm still going to be honest in my review, because if somebody I know is an author, I'm like, don't watch me talk about your books. Well, we're going to have more on reviewer spaces soon. So yeah, the other thing, this one, I was shocked by this. I noticed, and maybe you did too, a lot of authors are pulling out of Apolly this year. And you may be wondering why. Maybe you missed the why. Because I, at first, was like, this is interesting. This is interesting that so many authors are not going to attend Apolly. Well, Apolly recently, in the last 2 years, moved to the Gaylord in outside of DC. It's not in DC. I mean, the first ApollyCon was not in DC either. It was in like Crystal City, but it moved further out to a Gaylord resort. And I know Gaylord resorts are wildly expensive for events. So what is happening that is causing these authors to pull out specifically because of the one that this was moved to is there's a group called Freeman, and I do believe they're a union, which is fine. Like, I'm pro-union. But normally at events, authors will pay about $25 a box to get it brought to their table with their books, right? Well, Freeman is charging $2.50 a pound. Like, we all know how heavy books are, right? Like, this is not light. That's not the case. Like, books are not light. So $2.50 a pound is a lot, and that's going to add up really quick, especially if an author does pre-orders and they have a lot of people wanting the item. The other thing to note is Freeman, I believe JLA covered the cost last year for some of the Freeman stuff, and obviously it was extraordinarily expensive, so they've had to adjust things. And there was a ton of damage done to boxes last year, and there was no, like, compensation back towards the damage done to books. And then the other thing is Freeman will only allow one box per person, and basically we'll say an author would maybe have 2 other people with them max, so 3 boxes they could carry in themselves before they potentially would be stopped by them. So that's a problem. This is just really like alarming because the costs overall are extravagant if you start doing the math for like conventions. Apparently also the other thing with this happened like the dryage, how do you say that word? Anyways, the cost was also told to authors last minute for 2024, and that's why JLA covered it, or some of it. But yeah, this is just really bad for authors because events are already very expensive for authors. I'm going to link to a thread. It has Canadian dollar amounts, but like this author lost like almost $8,000 just to attend an event. And, you know, for every author that makes a profit at these events, there are a lot of authors there that make 0 profit and are coming out in the hole because at the end of the day, these events are expensive. And I think that's just a fact of life to an extent, and it sucks. I hate how expensive these things have to be, and then, you know, you don't even have the promise of selling enough to cover your fees and your cost in books when you can't even bring books in because of the fees. Freeman has an exclusivity contract with the Gaylord, so that can't be changed. And ApollyCon obviously can't just swap venues because there's a contract in place for them to do ApollyCon there for so many years. I just think it's really interesting as we watch more and more events pop up. I think we're going to start seeing more and more transparency on the cost to authors for events. I try to make sure, you know, I pre-order where I can. I like going to smaller events when I can also, because I think, you know, it's just a little bit easier maybe for the authors to recoup their costs, and hopefully tabling isn't nearly as expensive as it would be. So there's that. The other thing that happened, this is going to be the quickest little blip of an update because I have a lot of feelings that I'm not going to get into here because it's not the place for me to do that. So the St. Martin's Press boycott has semi-formally come to a close. The Readers for Accountability group and St. Martin's Press came to a bit of an agreement, a good faith agreement that they were going to take steps, and then completely deleted everything because while that may not be the right answer to some people, Lean, the first person who originally called for the boycott and did not do more than call for the boycott, has said the boycott is not over. So the advice I'm giving everyone on this boycott and what to do is go read the statement. I will link the statement that St. Martin's Press released and use your judgment on what you think this means and if you feel like it met the demands you were aware of or not, and go forth how you wish. I personally will continue to read the marginalized and underrepresented authors from St. Martin's Press that I already had on my TBR and talk about them. That's how I'm moving forward. I got nothing else for you. I'll link to some videos about people talking about what happened and different things with it. It was very messy, and it was a very interesting time to be on the internet for a moment. There for a few days. On to Twitter chaos, or X. I'm never gonna call it that, but Twitter chaos. So this book cover by Karina Halle, this is an old book. This is from like 2016. Got a recover. And someone tweeted it and said that it's their worst nightmare. And that got supposedly 2.1 million views on the app. I say supposedly because like Twitter is also overrun with bots and different things right now. But as a romance reader, if you're here, I feel like you can imagine what was in the comments and what it was filled with. It was just vitriol and hate and awful opinions and takes on romance that we often face whenever we enter the public eye, which was not a surprise, but it's still disappointing. But it had, again, 2.1 million views. And Karina Halle did decide to make a statement, to comment on this. And I don't think she was wrong to do so, personally. Like, that is my personal opinion. You can think she's wrong. We can discuss it in the comments. But here's my biggest takeaway. Everyone in those comments were just being mean for no reason. And someone might say, this drove sales. Karina has said specifically this drove 0 sales for her books. So there's that. So do keep that in mind. So yeah, she did take to her Instagram and started posting and talking about how just kind of gross people were being about this book and how rude it was when it reaches 2.1 million views. Which then took to people being upset because they said that Karina has invaded reviewer spaces. And I need to say something. As someone who's like a fierce protector of reviewer spaces and the separation between authors and readers, 2.1 million views is not a reviewer space anymore. Critiquing a book because it's your worst nightmare and then just letting people talk shit about romance is not a reviewer space, okay? That's not the same thing. That's not Goodreads. That's not an Amazon review that's negative. Like, that's not an author finding your negative review and then finding you. That is not the same thing. In any capacity, that is not the same thing. So I just feel like cover bashing and things like that, there are covers I don't like. I talk about it all the time. But I don't go out of my way to like tag the author, tag the artist, and say it in ways where like they would potentially see it also. But yeah, that was wild. It was absolutely wild. And on top of that, because all this was going down, some people were also upset because Karina didn't block out any of the names, but they didn't block her book author name from the book title or the cover, or like just take the art of the you know what I mean? Like, they didn't do things to obscure her identity in any way to like trash this book. And so people were like livid that she dared to reply, dared to not cover up names. And I just feel like at that point you get 2.1 million impressions. It is what it is. This is no longer a reviewer space or anything. Like, if you felt that strongly about it, take the post down, which I do believe the person has privated their account, which is why I'm not showing you the tweets, because I'm 99% sure their account's privated now. But then people started digging into her other books, and it gets weirder. So she has a series where book 3 is the Nordic King. I've read it. The hero's name or the family name is Magnus. I can't remember which. And someone is basically bashing Karina Halle and telling her that she's a pedophile, and wrote this book as an inspiration of the current prince, whose name is Magnus. And I'm like, that's a stretch. That's a stretch. So like, they're telling her she's a pedophile and all these things and making wild claims. I mean, absolutely wild claims about this book. And it's fiction. And I'm not saying people don't write questionable fiction. Okay, I'm not saying that, because they do. We know they do. But y'all, in what world is a common name automatically you're writing about this prince that's like 3? Also, the book came out ages ago, so I think it was 3 at the time that she wrote it. Anyways, I just feel bad for her right now because I just think people took it way too far, as they tend to do on the internet, let's be honest. So yeah, I guess give her some love if you're interested in any of her books, because that would be probably nice for her. All right, another fun one. So a couple months ago, we talked about a certain murder being romanticized by a community, and then people be like, come on, dark romance book talk, and everyone be like, what is wrong with you? Well, an author by the name of Cassie Raphael decided to use images of that person on trial to market her book. Don't worry, she hid things, but then doubled down in comments. So this is just a FYI. If that's something that bugs you, this is probably an author to avoid. I know I personally will be avoiding them. I know they say there's no such thing as bad publicity, but I will tell you this, like, if you do this and then people don't want to read your book, a kind of bad publicity, because I'd never heard of you, and there was a chance I would have read your book maybe otherwise, but the book was Shocking Revelations that was marketed this way. Quick little FYI for everybody. Another weird update is Netflix is adapting Midnight Sun, put into an animated series, and how's Edward gonna sparkle? What does that mean? How is he gonna sparkle? Seriously though, like how? What are they doing for that? Because I want to know. I really want to know. And on that note, as Twilight comes back into the discussion, make sure you check out the Quileute tribe's donation links and stuff so you can help them move to higher ground and things like that. I'll link it down below for everybody, because I know every time Twilight comes back into popular consciousness in a specific way, I tend to donate money to them because I feel bad because they just kind of got hijacked for this story. But yeah, I just was like, I had no idea this was even a possibility or a thing that we would ever get. And here we are, Midnight Sun animated. And I like it. I like animation. Like, don't get me wrong, but I don't know. I'm very curious. All right, and then more TV news. Black Dagger Brotherhood series has been casted. So we have Robert Mazur as Wrath, Olivia Applegate is Beth, and Michael Rourke is Butch. Joel Cedarberg as Torment, Taylor Napier as Rage, Victory Van Tool as Marissa, Zami as Vicious, Andrew Burnett as Zadist, Zach Ignioff as Fury. So we have casting. I personally am just very curious to see how this all comes out and comes together. I don't know. I don't have big feelings about Black Dagger Brotherhood. It's not my fave. I'm very curious what everyone else thinks. So let me know in the comments what you think of the casting, if you have big opinions on it. Because I'm just like, okay. So that's where we're at. All right, let's talk about the Stuff Your Kindle Day drama. Drama. This is very silly to me. I need to start with that. This to me is so silly. So on TikTok, there are creators who talk about and feature the various free Kindle book days, which I think is great. It's fantastic. Wonderful. Do the work for people. You enjoy doing it. But this last round of Stuff Your Kindle Day, a creator came on and was like talking about the days and then was just like, we didn't get a lot of notice for the romance one. And I don't know if I'll continue to cover it. And I was just like, what is happening? Basically, they're upset that the date isn't shared ahead. So Romance Bookworms made a pivot from sharing the date ahead to not sharing it ahead as much due to just some of these people who were talking about the event but not actually directing people to the correct website and instead directing them to the like free 100 on Kindle, like top 100 free books, which isn't the books generally that are in Stuff Your Kindle Day. I mean, there are some there, but it's not all of them. And that's why Zoe York, the creator of the day, has kind of made these changes, including the fact that like also Zoe has had calls with Amazon because traffic to the site was out of control from Stuff Your Kindle Days. So like, I don't think it's a bad change. And previously she has a thread, I'll link to it below, where she discusses how creators, like book influencer people previously had never really been involved in the day, but like she's open to it, and she put up a form so that you could apply if you wanted to see the list early and stuff like that to, I think, curate recommendations. I know she also even went over some things that happened one time where like a Colleen Hoover book was free and that got a ton of traffic instead of books that were actually on the Stuff Your Kindle Day. I don't know. I just think it's weird to be upset about a free book day. Like, it's free books and either you are excited about it and you want to shop that day or you don't, and it's okay to not. And I don't think it's wrong of Zoe York and the Romance Bookworms people to want to direct traffic to their website where they have links to Kobo and Kindle and everything, because they're also saving a lot of work on the part of anyone who has like Amazon affiliates. Because if you have an Amazon affiliate, you can only link to so many free books in a month without losing your account. And, you know, Zoe doing it the way she's doing it is ensuring that people don't lose their accounts for linking to free books. Other fun news, Quicksilver by Callie Hart, the very popular romantasy right now, has been acquired by Forever Publishing. So I'm very intrigued to see how this goes. I'm intrigued to see where it goes. I have the audiobook pre-ordered for October right now. So when that comes out, I will be giving this a try again. I've read like a chapter of it. But yeah, this I think is exciting. I'm not surprised. I assumed at some point this book would get picked up by someone because it has been popular enough that I was like, there's no way someone's not acquiring this book. And then last but not least, we have Penguin Random House with a new role to help with book banning. So they've hired someone to help them work with the ALA, I believe, and work on the issue of book banning and preventing book banning. So I think that's interesting. It's not Romancelandia specific, but book banning at some point, if it continues at the rate it is, will affect us in romance because we are going to see books pulled at the end of the day. Because on that note, on books pulled, we do need to quickly discuss the fact that Barnes & Noble has pulled random books it has deemed inappropriate from their platform, which, two things here I will say. I say it when this happens on Amazon too. We are not entitled to freedom of speech via a platform that does business. They have their rules and guidelines. Do I think the books I pulled probably were not actually inappropriate? Yes, I do, and I do think it was an error. But we've seen this happen with books on Amazon where they ban a book because it has content that they don't approve of. And that is allowed because, again, there is a terms of service when you agree to sell your books on these platforms. And you have to abide by those terms of service, just like anything else that we use and things like that. Because, again, corporations do not owe us freedom of speech. Corporations are also not our friends. So there's that. But yeah, Barnes & Noble's had a bit of a streak of pulling some stuff recently as well. So I think maybe the Penguin Random House move is going to just be beneficial to everyone at the end of the day. So fingers freaking crossed, y'all. That is everything that I could cover this month. Because I knew, I was like, there's too much. We have to pull some things. And some things were just repeat combos. Like, I don't have to have a HEA in my romance. And I just was like, zip it, bonk, zip it, you know? So there's that. That's everything for this month. Let me know if there's anything you think I missed or anything that popped off in the last like 4 days from filming. Fingers crossed it's calm, y'all. Fingers freaking crossed. If you don't want to do any of that, leave me a pumpkin emoji because we got our cast with pumpkins on in and on pumpkins reading today. Leave me that pumpkin emoji. I'll have links to everything I have links for you if you want to go learn more. I will also have links to my friend anywhere on the internet, and if you would like early access to things like Romancelandia Monthly, you can join as a Romancelandia supporter or a friend tier, which gives you a little bit more, but no pressure. This will still and always be free. Okay, that's everything. I will talk to y'all soon. Bye!
Already packing, come with me. I'm not really asking. We'll get away to a place where we don't know. About to see the world in action, what we can be. Life with no distractions, we'll get away. This is what